Hello and welcome to another episode of the Kennel NRL podcast. Sorry, we are 4 minutes late because I made a very rookie mistake where I pressed to go live but didn't start the live stream. But anyway, hello, welcome to another episode of the Kennel podcast where a week in rugby league feels like it's been a year. I don't even remember what the score was for the Dolphins. We probably won. I don't know, but it doesn't matter. With that, as always, I've got my trusty co-host Dibbo. And today's special guest, I've got the wonderful Winston, known for all things Bulldogs. Welcome, genuine.
Yeah, thanks for having me back on. We were just saying before you correctly pressed live that it's been, I think you said exactly a year since I was last on here, so it's good to be back. Obviously, had a pleasure last time and plenty to talk about, I feel, this week.
Oh, there's so much to talk about. It's always good to have you on. It just hasn't aligned. And bro, you're always welcome here. We love having you on. And to those that are not watching live, and those on Spotify, welcome. Thank you for joining us once again. Dibbo, how you doing?
Good, mate. Good. Actually, looking forward to another round of footy. Good to see the Dogs playing again. It'll be on Monday. So, yeah, just looking forward to the games cracking on this week. Feel like we couldn't get enough of it in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, this Origin period, there's always a lot of conjecture about whether it should change, whether things are good, whether things are bad. Look, I just think the more footy, the better. Especially with how the doggies are going, and the Dragons won their game recently, so that's been good. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about one person and one person only, and that is Lachlan Galvin. There's been a whirlwind of media. There's a lot that's come with his signing to the Bulldogs, and I think now that it's been confirmed, now that he's officially a Bulldog, all the fans should get around him. I know, Winston, initially you had your initial doubts about signing Galvin. We didn't need him, things like that. I'd love to sort of pick your brain a little bit about sort of what led to that thinking about not wanting or not necessarily thinking we needed Galvin.
And yeah, like for the record, I still feel like we didn't need to sign him. I'm just the kind of guy that's happy to go and not turn my back on the club just because they've done something I don't like. Like, I feel like, in my opinion, he's not a 7. I feel like eventually he more than likely will be a 7, but right now I just don't think he's a traditional, steer the team around the park sort of halfback. And I feel like that's probably Toby Sexton's strength. Is Toby Sexton one of the elite halfbacks or even, a top 10 halfback? Realistically, no, he's not. But I feel like in terms of steering the boys around the park 7, I think Toby Sexton can do that better than Lachie Galvin can. As a player, I think Lachie Galvin's a better player, but I just feel like purely as a 7, I don't think it's an upgrade. However, as I just said, Lachie Galvin's a fantastic player, and I'm sure in a couple of years he can be there. I understand the signing, and I'm very optimistic about the signing. I hope he comes in and kills it. I've got nothing against Lachie. It's purely just, I feel like as a halfback right now, Toby Sexton is a better 7. But the way the Bulldogs system is as well, obviously you know that it's a very systemized attack and a very systemized defense. I feel like if the attacking system can just rely on itself and the players can get themselves around the park, if Kurtman or Bailey Hayward, whoever's on the field in the 13 at the time, can help direct the boys around the park as well, I don't see why we can just use Birdo and Galvin in the same way where they're just ball running, run first, pass second sort of players. Because at the end of the day, in my opinion, Galvin and Burton are pretty much the same player, where they're bigger body ball running 6s, and it'll just depend on what does the coaches want to turn Galvin into, and are they going to rely on that system, or do they want a halfback getting around the boys around the park? At the moment, it feels like they're going to rely on the system and just hope that the 2 6s will work together, and then Galvin probably turns into a 7 long term, or he becomes the 6 long term, and Mitch Woods comes into that 7 jersey.
Yeah, look, I sort of get that. And I think that's sort of the initial thoughts that everybody has, is that, okay, so this guy's not a traditional 7, and so how is he going to fit into the team? But I think, like, I've got some thoughts on this, but I wanted to sort of throw to the neutral in the discussion. What are your thoughts on this, Dibbo? Do you think that he's too similar to a Burden, as Winston was saying, or do you think that he can complement the Bulldog structures and the Bulldogs attack?
I think he's got more zip than Burton, the way he runs at the line. Like Burton's got those long strides. He's got obviously a kicking game on him. I think Galvin's more of a hot rod sort of player. He loves running that ball, zips on it. Doesn't have the big step like Fittler, but takes on the line like Fittler used to do back in the days. I don't think Burton runs the ball enough. He's a good runner of the ball and he's a good distributor. I just feel like Burton's, man, he takes it on, He looks left and right. Like, who remembers last year, an 18-year-old just go looking in and out and, sorry to get animated, but I just feel like he's...
No, do it, bro. Do it. Get animated.
Yeah, honestly, like, fuck, where do you get an 18, 19-year-old doing that? Honestly. The guy just walked in. Playing schoolboys footy, fuck. Like, schoolboys footy's weaker than weekend footy, when you play for your local, local junior side. But, I know we saw him for Westfield Sports High and all that, but there's a big difference from high school footy and then making the jump to the under-20s and then reserve grade and obviously first grade. This guy went from under-18s straight to first grade. That is insane. And he was making a dent in first grade. So he's gonna be effective wherever he plays. It's just it's a matter of giving him that game time and utilizing him. That's what it is. That's what it's going to come down to. If you're getting him 15 minutes, then why pay $750,000 for him or whatever they paid? I don't know what they paid, but he's going to have to start eventually. You don't sign a guy on that money and put him on the bench. So he'll be starting in a few weeks, maybe shorter. And who knows? Maybe the rugby league gods will align the universe, and somehow an injury to someone might make the decision for Ciraldo a lot easier.
Yeah, look, I think that's a funny. It's a strange thing to say. I sort of get what you're saying. See, my thinking with Galvin is that even with Sexton at the moment, if you look at his try assists, if you look at the threat on the ball on their right hand side, I feel like they still don't like. You take Sexton out of there, and our attack, our structures don't really change. Like, with no disrespect to Sexton, I think that he's almost like a stopgap at times, as opposed to being that threat on the line. If you look at some of the other sevens in the competition, as much as they get, as soon as they get the ball, you're thinking, oh God, what are they going to do here? Right? How are they going to attack? What's their kicking going to do? What's their passing? Like, they keep you guessing, and you're at odds and ends to understand what the seven's going to do. With Sexton, and look, I'm a big defender of Sexton. I've supported Sexton the whole time. I've said, he deserves to stay and things like that. He doesn't offer a threat. When you bring in someone like Galvin, right, who can play on the right-hand side, and then you got Burton who can play on the left-hand side, what you do is you have attack on both sides of the ruck, and then through the middle, our forwards will just keep grinding and grinding and grinding. And I think that the great thing about the way that Ciraldo has developed our attack, and Jason Taylor's also been a big part of that, is I don't think we rely on any one player for our attack or any one person to run our attack. I think like the only key man dependency that we have is honestly probably Critter, and that's not even because it's his attack that's going to get us out of a bad situation. It's just because his leadership is so crucial. So, do we need an out and out seven? I would question whether we have an out and out seven that does what an out and out seven does at the moment. With all due respect to Sexton, is that being a little bit harsh, or what do you guys think? Can I jump in for a second,
because I'm actually going to
go for your life. Yeah,
I'm going to go to your point here, where you said that our attack doesn't necessarily rely on one play, and this is what I was sort of saying before, where we have a very clear system, and it comes down to, do we need a seven that's structured and organizational, or does the system do it itself? And you sort of touched on, if you take Toby Sexton out of it, does that much change? Let's look at what happened when Matt Burton came out and Bailey Hayward went in. Nothing changed. We literally didn't lose a game with Bailey Hayward at 6, because it's not a system relying on Matt Burton. It's a system that it relies on itself, right? So Ciraldo set up this attacking system, and it's the same defensively, where you can take things in and out, and it's still the same system. And everyone all the way through the junior grades, Jersey Flegg, Harold Matts, all the way up, they're SG Ball. They're all learning this system so they can come in and they operate in the system. And so that's where I'm wondering, do they need someone to get them around the park, or can they just have two ball running halves that can just play some rugby league? And maybe that's what can happen. And we're going to see Lachlan Galvin come in and just play some rugby league. And if the system can get the boys around the park itself, we don't need an organisational 7, and it's going to be happy days.
Oh, it's going to be brilliant. And you look at like what Galvin has showed us. Like I think over the last maybe 6 weeks, I don't think we've seen Galvin play very well because obviously he's wanted out. There are a lot of rumours about not just the bullying, but just in general. Even though he doesn't have a bad relationship with Luai. Luai had preferences apparently. I don't know how real this is. It's a lot of conjecture, but Luai was preferring Latu Fainu over Galvin to begin with, and apparently he was taking more to Latu Fainu. So for Galvin to be in that situation where he's already made that comment about wanting to leave and then everything happening in the background and then to get dropped and then to be brought back, like I just feel like we haven't seen the best of Galvin. And even last year, I felt like he was carrying the Tigers attack on his back as an 18-year-old. Like he debuted round 2, did so well, and then essentially got through the year and was one of the best attacking halves in the competition for an 18-year-old, right? And so I think he's still very young, still very raw, and he's got that malleability for the team where he can slot in where we need him. So look, the question on the thumbnail is, are the Bulldogs a better team with Galvin? Right? And my answer to that, I have to be really honest, is we are without a doubt, I think, at least 50% better than without him. That's my honest opinion. And I think when you have a defensive structure that plays in an organized way and then allows someone like Galvin to use his speed and his attacking flair on a tiring defense in the last 20 or 30 minutes of the game, I think it makes a big difference. The Tigers don't have that. And I think one of the things the Tigers have struggled with is their defense and their fitness. So when you come into a team that has good defense, has good fitness, and then you sort of unleash in that last 20 minutes, only God knows what someone like Galvin can actually do with a team around him that's supporting him and that's sort of willing him on. So I definitely think the Bulldogs are infinitely better with Galvin than without. Even if it means that our team loses some of the people that have helped us get here, it is part and parcel of growing and succeeding as a team. What do you think? Winston, I'll go to you. Do you think that we're better with Galvin in the team?
Well, it's so hard to say because the reality of the situation is we can all sit here and we can all try and figure out, what Galvin's role is going to be, where he's going to play, how good's he going to be, what the balance is going to be, what the culture is going to be off the back of it with, players being upset or whatever. The only answer we're going to have is when Lachlan Galvin steps onto that football field and we see with our own eyes. Outside of that, it's all just theories, right? In my opinion, the roster on paper has improved. Lachlan Galvin is a phenomenal player. There's no denying that. And with him in the roster, it's a better roster. It just comes down to where does he fit in? That's the question that needs to be answered. And the way it's going to be answered is he's going to go out there and he's going to play some rugby league and we're going to find out if he fits. I think, if I'm giving my opinion, I think immediately I can see a world where we go backwards a little bit while he adapts to the systems, while he learns, especially the defensive system. I think that'll take him just a little bit of time to adjust to. But once he's adjusted to that, once he's found his, footing if he's in the 7 jersey and the players are sort of starting to come to terms with the fact that, all right, this guy's in our team for the next 3.5 years. I think in 6 months' time, heading into next season, I think we're a better team. I think immediately there's going to be some teething issues, but I think for the duration of his contract, we will definitely be a better team.
That's interesting. That is a very cautious approach. Definitely a very cautious approach. I'm a bit more gung-ho. I actually reckon, I think immediately his impact will be felt across the team in attack. Look, defensively, I think, yeah, you're right. It will take him some time to get there. But, before I go on, Dibbo, what do you reckon? If I was to ask you purely on what you've seen, are the Bulldogs a better team with Galvin than without? What would you say?
Oh, of course they're a better team. But just to run it back, back to Sexton just before. You were giving him a smackdown. I think that was quite harsh on him. Look, Sexton, look, they've won a lot of games with Sexton there. It's just, I think the club now is obviously trying to upgrade. You know, Sexton's the probably one of the most significant sayings in rugby league is you can't win a premiership without a superstar halfback. Like it's almost unheard of. You know, it's happened but rare. So you need a gun half, a 6 or a 7, somewhere there. So having Sexton there, he's not viewed as a bona fide superstar. Yes, he's getting him now into the finals, but they feel like it's time to evolve the team. You can't keep playing the same brand of footy. Teams will start figuring you out. And it's probably shown the last few weeks or a month, let's say. You got to evolve your game. So Sexton pretty much plays the monotone style. I say it does it well, but Lachlan Galvin he's always at you. There's no monotone rugby league with him. He's still growing in his game. What is he, 19 years old now?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's very skinny as well. So wait till he puts on an extra 5 or 10 kilos. He's going to be busting that line with more ease. But there's no need for him to really put on some weight. He really can get through as it is. So they are definitely a better team. Well, I feel they're going to be a better team anyway with him. I mean, he's really a game breaker at West Tigers. So he's got a better pack around him. Yeah. Surely he's going to be even more deadly at the Dogs.
Yeah, 100%. I just want to quickly give a shout out to everyone in the chat. We love having you guys. David A. Folder, Everon, thanks for joining, bro. You've been here since day one. Be Massive, Bill Sam, Bilal Abu Khalil, Kira Season, Norm Eater, Jamie Teasdale. I want to give a big shout out to Jamie on foot. Jamie's usually one of the most active supporters of the podcast. He's always with us live, but his son today is a little bit sick. So I do want to give a shout out to his son, Brock. I hope you feel better, Brock. Really sorry that you're feeling a bit sick. But looks like your dad's looking after you, taking care of you, and hopefully you get better, Brock. Also, Brock is a Dolphins fan, and the Dolphins did play very, very good against the Bulldogs. So I hope you enjoyed that performance by the Dolphins, Brock. But, I don't think they'll be able to beat us like that again. But, I really hope you get better, Brock. And again, Jamie, thank you so much for being such a great fan of the podcast. Chopper, how you doing? Thought you were going to reach out and you didn't. We've got some things in the plans. I will.
Chopper not happy. Chopper's furious. We love you, Chopper. Chopper not happy. We'll get to him. Chopper, we're going to get to you.
Brad Cambridge, as always. And look, while you guys are here, we've got 48 people. Please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe, share the video to your rugby league mates while we do have the great Winston with us. So now, we're sort of discussing about whether we're going to be a better team or not. The team for the Eels has been announced, and Galvin is on the extended bench. Right? Do we think Galvin will play against the Eels?
I reckon yes.
You reckon he'll play?
I reckon put him in. You're not paying him $750,000 to have a lot of bye weeks, are you? Of course you're going to play him. Silly not to. It's a big stage. You're going to get about 60, 70,000. I've got my tickets to go there. I didn't buy them personally. Somebody invited me.
Ooh.
I'll give
Bloody Dragon supporters.
I'll tell you what, I think if they debut him, like obviously there was a lot of talk that he's going to debut off the bench, and there's obviously a very big chance that if he does play, it's probably going to be off the bench. I don't think they're going to name him in the 23 and then he's going to start halfback. I think if he plays, it'll be off the bench now. Picture this. It's the 50th minute in front of 70,000, we won't be over the top, 60,000 people against the club that he turned down, the Eels. 60,000 people, Accor Stadium. He gets up off the bench. He's got just all the Eels fans booing him. I feel like for the most part, most Bulldog fans have come around to it, which is good. But there's probably going to be a couple Bulldog fans still unhappy. And he has to come out in front of that crowd and deliver on probably the biggest stage until we play finals footy. So I think it's very exciting if he does debut. But goodness me, it's a baptism of fire. I honestly don't think Cameron Ciraldo even knows if he's going to debut yet. I think he's only had like 2 training sessions so far.
So I think more than that.
Yeah, fair. But no, I think just in terms of the defensive system and stuff, because if he just needs to be able to show that, he can hold up and stuff. And I don't doubt that he can. I think, like, gun to my head, I think he'll debut off the bench, but I wouldn't be shocked to see Ciraldo just give him a couple weeks and just really make sure. Because, like, realistically, if the team we're looking at on the screen right now, that's the current team in first position that's 9-2 on the ladder. They're not doing anything wrong. So there's no need to rush him in and disrupt it. It's not like we're trying to make a huge push for the finals. We're sitting in first place. So I think Ciraldo can be a little bit patient with it and take his time a little bit. But as you said, Dib, you're not paying him $750K to not play. He'll be playing sooner rather than later. But yeah, gun to head, I think he'll come off the bench on Monday.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And then eventually he'll be starting as well.
Yeah, I agree. I think he'll be starting halfback within a month.
It's a big call.
You know what? Here's another thing to throw up before you. I know Elmo has probably got something good to say. I reckon Sexton will end up being released by the June 30 deadline. It's a possibility.
Yeah, realistically. I don't think he's going to sit around playing cup. And sorry to jump in here, Elmo, as well. But realistically, if Galvin comes into first grade and then Sexton obviously has to play cup, I don't think it's in the Bulldogs' interest to play him in cup because you got guys like Mitch Woods, Joey O'Neill, and Cassian Smith. There's plenty of other young halves that you'd rather develop than just have Sexton.
Could he end up at the Tigers? And then Law revert to his favourite number 6?
So, look,
that's food for thought for you.
I think it makes sense for both parties for Sexton to leave early. If Galvin comes in and gets
I should get him off by June 30.
Look,
there's no need
I'm
to
going to say
there
this
anymore.
I think Lachlan Galvin will definitely play for the Bulldogs against the Eels, and as long as he's not injured, he's going to be in the team. That's the way I look at it. I think he's that caliber of player, and we went through all this circus of the media and all this rigmarole, not so that we can have this guy play in New South Wales Cup. I know we're only 1 or 2 weeks into a 3.5-year deal, but I think the other thing would be is that they would want to see what Galvin can do in this team as quickly as possible to understand where he will fit. Does he go to 7? Does he play at lock? Does Bailey Hayward go to 7? And Galvin interchange with Kurt Mann at lock. All these things would need to start to sort of reveal themselves. And I think the sooner Ciraldo can have a view of it, the better it will be for the team. So I think he'll definitely play. Who drops out? If I was to hazard a guess, I would say Curtis Moran would drop out against Lachlan Galvin, for Lachlan Galvin. And also, if you want to test someone, right? I know it's going to be a big crowd and things like that, but you'd probably want to test them against the team coming third last, right? You wouldn't want to hold back and wait and face, a Rabbitohs with Walker back, with, Latrell playing on fire, with White and back and all this sort of stuff. So you'd probably be better testing him against the Eels anyway, in a big crowd as well to make it a thing for the fans. I think, making a big spectacle for the fans where Galvin does play. I think that'll play a part into it. So I think he'll absolutely play. But you're right, Winston, 100%. I think that at the moment, Ciraldo's still trying to get a feel for what Lockie can do and where Lockie can slot in. And he probably doesn't know where he's going to play, but I do think that he's going to be like, no, we need to, we play him and we'll figure out where he fits, on the day or whatever. In terms of Toby Sexton, the analyst in me says that, they're going to let him go because they don't want to have too many people on their books and Toby won't want to stay. But I think my brain's telling me that they'll keep Sexton for depth, even if he's not the number 1-7, even if they start throwing Galvin in there in a few weeks, they'll keep Toby Sexton there just until the end of the year, in case we have injuries, in case something happens, Burton gets injured, Galvin gets injured, we've still got some of that depth just until the end of the year, so that if we do make it deep into the finals, we've got a top 30 that can continue to push us through. So I actually don't see Sexton leaving the club at all. I know there are clubs that are sniffing around. I think the Titans are one. I actually think that he'll end up at the Raiders. I don't think he'll end up at the Titans. I think that Ricky Stewart will bring him in. He's still quite young, and he will take a liking to him. I think he's got all the characters now, especially coming for the Dogs, that Sticky would like. So I see him going to a place like the Raiders as opposed to going to the Titans. But ultimately, he won't be here in 2026 unless over the next 3 months he comes out and he turns into Andrew Johns and Thurston and Cronk combined. He's not going to be at the Dogs next year, which I think it's the writing's on the wall. If the Dogs wanted to re-sign him, they could have re-signed him last year or not long after November 1st. So clearly the Dogs have an opinion on him, and so it is what it is. We just got to sort of live with it. I want to give a quick shout out to Brad. He's given us a $5 super chat for Galvin to get a new hairstyle / fund.
That was insane.
That's
that was that character from Dumb and Dumber. There was all the memes going around. That was insane. He couldn't have chosen a more worse haircut. Seriously.
Yeah, I think it looks worse than it actually is.
Fair income.
Yeah, I think it looks worse than it actually is. But you know what?
Anyways.
It's definitely not in the. It's not in the top 5 worst haircuts that I've seen in rugby league. That's the thing. It's really not in the top 5 worst haircuts that I've seen in rugby league. There's been some absolutely shocking ones, even in our team. Like, do you guys remember Kane Cleal? The bloke.
It's the worst haircut I've seen in a Bulldogs jersey since we signed Aaron Woods. It's atrocious.
Oh yeah, yeah, I remember that Aaron Woods one. I don't know what the hell was going on there with that one. That one was pretty bad. That was definitely pretty bad. Dave saying, I would 100% keep Sexton for this year. If anyone gets traded before June 30, it's money. B Massive is saying Woods. Scott Wood saying that Lachlan Galvin said he'll love playing inside Critter. I think there's a lot of smokes and mirrors happening, and look, I do think that he knows that he's probably going to end up playing the 7 sooner rather than later. But I want to ask you guys about the interviews that Lachlan Galvin did last night. The one with Danny Weidler. How did you guys think he performed, and what did you take away from that interview? Winston, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I thought he was pretty impressive, to be honest. He definitely gave all the right answers for the most part, if not just all of it. I thought he made it very, very clear. And so someone just commented scripted. I was about to say it seemed very genuine. I feel like he very much emphasized the fact that he's come to us because he wants to develop his game and that he doesn't feel entitled that he's just going to come in and be the 6 or be the 7 or whatever. It sounds like he's willing to buy his time and just really develop his game and work on his craft. And I think that's good. I think if you're going to come to the Bulldogs, you need to be okay with, doing hard work and stuff. That's something that we've made very clear over the last 2 seasons, where we got rid of everyone that didn't want to work hard and everyone that stuck around were just, the utilities, as they were called. They just worked hard. So I think it's good that he seems willing to do that. And yeah, I think he gave all the right answers. I was impressed with him. From all reports, he's a really good young kid. I know, the media's tried to paint him a certain way with the whole Tigers exit, but by all reports, he's a really, really good, down-to-earth kid, gives his time to everyone, isn't that ego-y or cocky. I know the media have made him seem like he's maybe a bit too big for his shoes. I don't think he's like that at all. By all reports, he's just a really nice guy, and maybe it's a bit of his parents or his manager that have made him seem that way. But Galvin himself just seems like a good kid, and I feel like the interview just doubled down on that belief for me.
Yeah, great points. I think, I agree with that. I have some other thoughts, but Dibba, I'll let you go. What did you think of the interview that he did with Danny Weidler?
You know what? It was very level-headed, not overawed. Honestly, that interview felt like it was a breeze to him. Honestly, I watched it. I thought, yeah, this is nothing to him. Like, he's, it's well within his depth, basically. That was just nothing to him, really. You could have probably put him in a hall for 20,000 people live and he'd handle it easily, basically. So, no, that was pretty good. Gave genuine answers. Didn't need to over-explain himself and just got straight to the point, and that's it. Like, so good. He's going to be a leader, this guy. He's definitely going to be a leader.
Yeah, look, I 100% agree with what both of you guys have said. what I found impressive about him was there was a couple of things that stood out for me. Number one, he was adamant that this was his doing and not Isaac Moses and his dad's. I'm not going to sit here and say he's lying. I'm also not going to sit here and say he's telling the complete truth. I think the truth always lies sort of somewhere in the middle. But he's owning up and he's willing to take all the brunt and the responsibility of this decision. And he's willing to take it head on. And he's willing to own up to saying that he needed to make the decision for himself that he didn't want to stay at the Tigers. That for me was really impressive because he wasn't kicking stones or, even intimating. It wasn't even in a subtle way saying that anyone influenced me. He was very clear that this is his decision. He was also very respectful of the Tigers and Benji, which I found it was a great piece, great on his part to be so respectful of the Tigers. I reckon he could have said a little bit more. He probably could have said, whatever he wanted, but he does have that disparaging clause, which probably stopped him from saying what he wanted to say. But I also think he was confident and sincere, and everyone's saying he was coached or he said what he was told to say, as B Massive is saying. I think as a 19-year-old, I reckon it's difficult to say that he was coached within 2 days to say what he said. I think it's hard to say that a 19-year-old was coached to be that well rehearsed in an interview with Danny Weidler. I just don't buy that. I think that a lot of what he said was quite genuine. And the other thing was he understood that he needs to earn his place. He needs to earn the trust of the players. He needs to earn the trust of the coaching staff. And he's happy to play in New South Wales Cup. For me, it shows that there isn't an entitlement there, and that the media has spun many bullshit stories about everyone involved in this situation because they can. They don't hate the Tigers. They don't hate the Bulldogs. They just don't care about either of the clubs or the player. And for them, this will get them clicks. So let's make up as many stories as we can. So if you look at some of the stuff that Buzz is saying, and Fox has run over the last 24 hours 7 articles about Lachlan Galvin, about how he took a subtle dig at the Tigers, or how he said this about Benji. Honestly, I watched that interview multiple times. I'm like, where is this dig that he took at Benji? What are they talking about? He didn't make any subtle digs. He just said he was impressed by Ciraldo. And that for me is like, dude, you stop trying to read between the lines of what a 19-year-old says. If he wanted to, before this disparaging clause, he probably could have come out and said it. There's been a lot said. So, I think it's a lot of this stuff is very annoying, especially from the media. But as Bulldogs fans, I think the one thing we need to realize is that the media is always going to be out to get the Dogs. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I have to tip my hat to Gus Gould. I've said this before and I'll say it again. Gus Gould did for the club what he needed to do. He got one of the best young talents to the club. He took a majority of the heat once the signing was being done. And that for me is what a general manager of football does. He takes the heat, he makes the tough decisions, and he gets shit done. And I think it was a great job. And the other thing as well is Gus Gould and Danny Weidler have a great relationship. And if you notice, Danny Weidler released a couple of very good articles praising the Dogs, praising Galvin, just before he did that interview with Lachlan Galvin. And that there's something there between Gus and Danny Weidler where it's, okay, I'll give you a couple of good articles, but you've got to give me the exclusive with Lachlan Galvin. And you know what? That's how business is done in media. And that's how business is done in rugby league. And so, you know what? I can't believe how good everything's actually turned out, all things considered. Sorry, it's a bit of a monologue, but I had some thoughts. Now, any final thoughts on the Lachlan Galvin thing before we move on and preview the Eels versus Dogs game?
I'll just say, sorry, Dib. I think he's a phenomenal player, and as I said, I think whether you think it's a good signing, whether you think it's a bad signing, it doesn't matter now. Your opinion, unfortunately, the reality is your opinion literally has no impact on what's happening. And if you're a Dogs fan, the best thing you can do is get out there on Monday and cheer Galvin on. I think that's basically the only choice you have as a Bulldogs fan. If you want to be a real Bulldogs fan, get out there and support whoever pulls the jersey on and let Lachlan Galvin's footy do the talking. I think he's a phenomenal player. He's going to be very entertaining to watch. I think we're lucky that we get to watch him play for our club now. And I think we just need to embrace him and get around him because it could very much be exciting times. And you don't want to be sitting here bagging him and then he delivers us a premiership in 3 months. That'll be embarrassing. So just get behind him, get around him, and give him every chance he can have to succeed.
100%. Well said. Well said. I think a lot of people have gotten around him. We're definitely around him. So, up the Dogs. Come on, Lockie. Let's do it. All right. Let's move on. I want to preview the Dogs versus Eels. But before that, I want to give a shout out to Jamie Teasdale. Hey boys, young fellas asleep for now. How come Galvin got a real jersey and Dib is still wearing the red V? Bro, Dib, I love Dib so much. He's gonna cop it so much. He always cops it. About being a red V supporter. Look, it's unfortunate that he's a red V supporter. It is what it is. Sometimes you don't choose who you support. It's sort of given to you, and it is what it is. So we do feel sorry for Dib, but they did beat the Knights in what I think was one of the worst games of rugby league I've ever seen. But good on them for winning.
Dragons were ordinary. Knights were just horrible. Oh, that was a poor game.
I actually reckon at this point the players are tanking so that so they can get rid of Adam O'Brien and not cost the club too much money. I feel like that's...
Love you too, Jamie.
love what you do. All right, so Dogs versus Eels. I'm actually really excited about this game. Firstly, the Dogs and Ticket Tech are doing $10 tickets for this game, just like we did for the Rabbitohs Good Friday game. So if you haven't bought your tickets, or you are thinking about going, it's very, very cheap ticket, $10 for tickets. And I think, Winston, you have a code where people can get 10% off their tickets?
Yes. Right? Thank you for reminding me. Use code Winston N25. It's like capital W and capital N. So Winston N25. Maybe drop that in the chat if you know how to spell it. My parents stitched me up because I've got such a dumb name. It's kind of hard to spell. So people probably going there putting in Wilson 5. There you go. Winston N25.
Is it Winston with a Y?
No, exactly. That's what I mean. Like far out. Couldn't just make
Winston
a code
with a Y. Anyway,
everyone's putting in Winston with a Y, and they're wondering why the discount isn't working. Winston N25, 10% off your tickets. Go nuts. Run it up.
Nice. You get it for $9 now. How good's that?
What?
$9?
Yeah,
how good's that? $10 to a ticket. Bloody oath.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. This is what I love about what the Bulldogs
play them at Accor all the time. $10.
Seriously.
Yeah, mate, honestly, what it does is... Sorry, go ahead, Winston.
No, you go, mate, you go.
I was just going to say, like, one of the things that I love about our club this year is the fact that they're keeping the fan sort of front and center of everything that they're trying to do. So they know it's a public holiday. They know it's a big game. They know everybody wants to see Dogs versus Eels. And so they're like, okay, let's see what we can do to bring these cheap tickets to the club, bring these cheap tickets to our fans. And for me, like, honestly, the club's going from strength to strength. Like, Ciraldo's spoken about how important the fans are. Ciraldo's spoken about how important our passion is for our club. And he shows it to the players. The players know, and he emphasizes it to the players. And then they offer things that are actually practical. So it's not just words. It's like, okay, if we can bring $10 tickets to the fans, we will. And that, for me, is like, I think that's leading the way for the whole of the NRL. And I think other teams should try and embrace what the Bulldogs are doing in terms of if there's a big game or if there's a potential of a big game, provide those cheap tickets. Find ways to enable people to go and watch the games. And I know personally a lot of people that for the Rabbitohs game, they bought those cheap tickets because, you know, they've got a big family of 5 kids, right? Mum and dad. If you're paying $70 tickets, you can then probably... You know, if your kid wants some chips or wants to drink at the game, you can probably afford to do that if you have 5 kids. If you're paying $30-40 a ticket, it becomes hard. So, you know, it's a big thing. And if they can only, you know, even if the tickets are nosebleeds or whatever, it still means that you can get to the game and you know, for a cheap price. So for me, that's awesome. Now, in terms of the team that's been named, I got to say, this game is not... I don't think this is a walk-up win for the Bulldogs. I actually think this is going to be a really, really tough game. I don't think we're going to blow them off the park.
Para's ever improving as well.
Yeah.
Week on week, they're just getting so much better. Like I've got to say,
Jack Williams.
Jack Williams is killing it. But even Dylan Brown, I feel like Dylan Brown over the last couple of games, or 2 or 3 weeks, has been so much better. Now that he's playing alongside, Mitch Moses. Even against Manly, I thought Mitch Brown was really, really good. The other one who has really blown me out of the water was Junior Paulo. In the first few weeks, I thought he was horrible. He couldn't get any go forward. No ruck speed, no quick play the balls, no offloads, nothing. I just thought he was done for. And then honestly, over the last 4 or 5 weeks, I feel like he's played out of his skin and he's carried that forward pack on his back, and that sort of come back and been and rubbed off on the likes of Jack Williams, Luca Moretti, and Katonga. So I think they've been playing so much better than the ladder suggests, to be honest. So I think this could be a danger game. I think we'll win and win comfortably, but I still think we're going to have to earn the 2 points. I genuinely don't think it's going to be one where we just rock up and win. The other person I want to give a shout out to from the Eels is the Reed Miney clone, Riley Smith. I just think it's absolutely unbelievable how similar Riley Smith and Reed Miney are. I swear to God, the guy, Riley Smith was running in that Panthers game, and for a split second, I thought, what the hell is Reed Miney doing? And I was like, hang on, that's Riley Smith. That's how similar they are.
It's a run more. It's a run more the ball.
Yeah. Well,
hate it when hookers just become dummy half passes and tacklers.
Honestly, I think that's what's happened to Reed Miney a little bit.
Spits out a dummy half and linking up and even linking up with forwards or back on the inside. Anyways.
Yeah, Norm Eater's asking, why is Elmo glazing the Eels? Honestly, I'm not glazing the Eels. I'm just really being...
Told you, Zoe, please use allegiance. See? Right on cue. I got him.
I'm just trying to sort of be realistic about how this game's going to go. I think if we think it's going to be a walk-up win, it could be dangerous for us as fans. And look, our team, I think it's a great team. I'm starting to believe more and more that my opinion at the beginning of the year is right. Marcelo Montoya needs to go for Blake Wilson. That's the one change I think that's the one hill I think I'm ready to die on. Maybe even Sam Hughes in place of Daniel Saluka Fafita. But other than that, I think the team is fantastic. Hot Boy's been great. Harry Hayes, unbelievable. Haywood, speaks for himself. Morin. So I think it's going to be a great game. Winston, your thoughts?
I'll tell you what. I'm just trying not to look at this team list because I know come Monday there's going to be about 1 million changes. I think this team list doesn't really mean much, to be honest. Obviously, for the most part, it's not going to change. But obviously, with Galvin probably coming in, and then I can even see that forward pack being reshuffled. Maybe Haywood comes in at lock and Mann goes back to the bench, or Hayes comes and starts at back row, Curran back to the bench. I think Hughes could come in. I was surprised that he's not in there. I think there'll be a couple of changes late, to be honest. So I'm definitely not memorizing this one. I think I'll wait for Monday to pick it. But overall, it's just good to see. This is probably the strongest team we've named in maybe a month. Hey, Obviously Preston and Satilia still out, but outside of those two, everyone else off the top of my head's back. I don't think there's anyone else we're missing. So it's good to see a team where you're just going, all right, we're looking like we're back. And then I guess it'll just depend on if Galvin comes in, how it looks. But no, I'm excited. I think on paper, based on how we've been performing this year, we probably are better on paper, but games of football aren't won on paper. They're won on the footy field. So we'll see how we go.
Yeah, it's a great point, to be honest. I do think that there will be a lot of change up. As you say, Kurt Mann could probably start from the bench. I think he'll start Kurt Mann and leave sort of Bailey Haywood there. If Galvin does come onto the bench, I reckon our dynamic will change quite a bit. I think that Reed Miney probably doesn't play all 80. That's what I think. Things will start changing. I think Haywood will start to take more time at 9, potentially preparing for the future. I could see a world where even Toby Sexton maybe has a spell on the bench. I think the dynamic is going to be very different this week. but the core team is there. You know, Jacob Kiraz is back 2 weeks early. He was scheduled to come back round 16. He's been named in the team. I think he still has to pass a fitness test, which is why Blake Wilson is in the 22. But by all accounts, he's ready. He's ready to play. So look, that's great. You know, Critter's back. Kingy's back from Origin. So I'm expecting some big games from them. Dibba, what are your thoughts?
I don't know. I'm just like I said about Canterbury Bulldogs. I've been saying lately, they're just the Bermuda Triangle. I can't figure them out. You got Daniel Saluka Fafita comes off and he's replaced by Lipboy Hopboy. Now, everyone here in the chat will agree, even the one-eyed supporters, they're not household names. You know, that would be a cause for concern. But I can't work out the Dogs this year, so I'm going to leave it at that. I do think your bench is... Yeah, I do think your bench, even your bench, how do I work this out? Like, Bailey Hayward and Curtis Moran, like you got two miniature diminutive players there, and then you got two inexperienced rookies. Like Harry Hayes, I know he's been cracking them lately, but him and Lippo Hotboy are still like rookie levels, really. Like, and then they might just go and strangle the other team, and we're all at a loss to explain what's going on. So, gonna leave it at that. I'm not even going to try to decipher your team because, yeah. The Bermuda
what's
sorry, can I jump in, Elmo? I feel like it's pretty.
Please.
I feel like it's pretty standard. Like you got Bailey Hayward, who's been there all year. He'll come on and play 13 and give Kurt Mann a spell. Or he could even play hooker late. Harry Hayes, he's been playing back recently, but like he'll come on and play in the middle. Liphoy as well, and then Curtis Moran's the third middle. Like it's not anything different to what the team's been all year. To be honest, it's just Hayward and three forwards.
I mean, I understand what's unexplainable. We've won 9 games. We've only lost 2.
Exactly.
You need to know. We've won 9.
Exactly. And then 2, anyone will look at this lineup and say, oh, there's a lot of not household names there. And you want to tip against them, and then you've learnt your lesson not to tip against them. So that's why I'm not going to sit there and say, no, they're not going to win this week. So I'm just going to play the safe option and tip them again.
Yeah.
I like, no, like, to be fair,
we had enough humble pie, so
we are missing Preston and Satilli. So like you're not wrong. Like Hotboy, Hayes, and Saluka Fafita, they're not household names. Like I understand what you're saying, but in terms of like I feel like the makeup of the team makes sense though.
I think it's a well-rounded team because
they've been doing that since last year as well. If you want to throw it back even further, Winston, since last year, and it's worked for them. So and you know the rugby league purists will tell you, oh, this doesn't work. At a loss to explain because they're making it work.
Because they just come in and just work hard and make their tackles. It's crazy.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, I got a question for you, Elmo. I know you were about to say something, but I got a dip before 8:30 because I got something else on. Who, if Lachlan Galvin comes into this side, who drops out, in your opinion?
Toby Sexton.
So you reckon Galvin will come in and just play 7?
I don't think he will this week, but as you say, I think eventually he knows that he's going to be playing 7. I think that's the unspoken agreement.
So I mean this week, if Galvin plays against the Eels, who drops out of the 17?
Oh, I think it'll be Curtis Moran.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
And he'll just play. Because even if you look at like a few weeks before, what's happened is like they've had Kurt Mann and Bailey Hayward on the bench, and they've had 2 forwards. With Salmon starting or whatever. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that that's how the team makeup will be. So, and you know, Harry Hayes and Lipboy Hotboy can play big minutes. I think King will be asked to play a few more big minutes. Curran plays 80 all the time. So overall, it's not a team where you'll be too worried about, the fitness or anything like that. And I think with their forwards, their bench is okay, but their bench still has... I think their bench is actually pretty good. But for us, we're just the much fitter team. And you could tell, like, even against the Panthers on Sunday, they sort of ran out of steam that last 10 minutes. Otherwise, they probably could have come home. And I feel like we're even fitter still than the Panthers, which for me, is a good sign. So that's how I think it's going to work. I think, if Galvin does come in, it'll be in place of Curtis Morin. And I do think that Bailey Hayward will play some 9. I think he'll play about 20 minutes, maybe 10 to 20 minutes at 9. And sort of go from there. And then moving forward, I think in the sort of medium term, I think Toby Sexton drops out.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think, like, I've probably worded that as if I wasn't sure, like, but I agree. I think Morin will drop out, and I think they'll carry Galvin on the bench with Hayward, like they've done with Taff. Pretty much just what you said, like they've done with Taff recently. And like really, like you sort of see Bailey Hayward and you think utility, but realistically, he's more of a 13 if anything. So Galvin is on the bench as that. Just if someone goes down, I guess he'll go into the halves. Otherwise, I guess Sexton probably comes off late in the game. Unless I wonder if they'll just throw Galvin in 13 for 20 minutes. I don't know. But yeah, I think Morin would drop out just because Hayes and Hopboy are bigger bodies and can play bigger minutes.
100%. And like I think over the last, I don't know, month, Hayes and Hopboy have been amazing. Sure, against the Dolphins, we wasn't great, but bro, they've been so good. I know you got to drop in 5 minutes. I want you to tell me score and first try scorer.
Oh, I always get nervous every week, like badly. I remember last year, the King's birthday was some of the most nervous I've been in years for a game of rugby league because it was at that like tippy point of the season. And I remember like I couldn't even eat that day. I was so nervous because the Eels are just one of those teams that you're just so desperate to beat. And because we've been so bad for so long, we like have barely ever beaten the Eels. So it's just a game I just really want to win. I'm going to go Dogs to win, obviously. It'd be shocking if I came on here and was like, no, I think we're going to lose. I'll go Dogs to win. I'm going to say we'll win. I'm going to go 22-10. I think, yeah, I think that's it. I think that's pretty realistic. And then first try scorer, I think Jacob Carraz.
Oh,
I think that's a safe pick, but I like King Carraz on the Kings. I'll tell you what, somebody said it before in the chat, Max King to score on the King's birthday just makes sense.
That'd be sick. If King scores like 3 tries in like 6 games, when he hadn't scored for like 50, 70, 80 games, whatever it was, that'd be pretty insane. Devo, what are your thoughts?
It's going to be a tight game, I reckon. I've got the Dogs by 8. Tight game. And my first try scorer is going to be Bronson Sherry. I think he's due to put a foot forward.
That's a good shout.
Yeah, he's due to put his foot forward. It's got to surely be this game.
I'm going to say 26-12 to the Bulldogs. First try scorer.
Yep.
I don't know why I want to say Josh Curran.
I thought you were going to say Josh Adokar.
No, I honestly, I don't know why I want to say Josh Curran. I feel like the guy always puts himself in good positions to score. But I like if they start fast, I think they will score first. That's one of the things that I feel has happened a lot. Especially because we're sort of running a bit of a smaller pack. But having Daniel Suluka-Fafita there and Josh Curran video, I think we'll be okay. If we come out and we can defend, I think if we score first, I think it could probably be Josh Curran. And I think we'll beat them 13+, but it will be a good game. I think it'll be a very, very good game. But we'll get a couple of quick ones at the end because they're going to run out of puff.
Yeah, I back that as well.
And so I'm so excited. I know that you got to jump, Winston. I don't want to hold you for any longer than you need to be here because I know you have to jump. But I want to say thank you so much from all the Kennel for jumping on, and we'd love to have you on as often as you'll be willing to come on, man. It's always a pleasure to have you on.
100%. Thanks for having me on. Good to meet the notorious DIB as well. Obviously, you weren't here when I was here last time. But yeah, always happy to come back on. Hopefully, Galvin kills it for us, and hopefully we can beat the Eels on Monday.
Mate, I'm just excited for the atmosphere on Monday. So,
yeah,
I hope it's a cracking game. I hope it's 70,000. That will be insane. Yeah, that's just great.
Hopefully we can put
pleasure having you on.
Nah, pleasure being here. Thanks, fellas.
No worries.
All right, sweet. I'm just gonna leave. It feels weird. I'm just gonna leave, but that's what I'm gonna do. So See you later. Up the
See you
Dogs.
soon, huh? Take it easy,
Take
Winston.
care.
Have a good one.
See ya.
All right, guys. So we've got some thoughts in the chat, and I want to just sort of run through them quickly. Hang on, where are they?
I was going to put it out to Norm Eater. I won't be eating pies and sausage rolls on Monday. I'll gladly take a video of what I'll be eating, and you can sulk about it the next day.
Yeah. Scott Wood's opinion. The Dogs are going to win 40-18. I think it's a
could be a blow.
It's a big call. It could be. I think the Eels have improved quite a bit. And what I find from a team like the Eels, the Dragons, a lot of these teams, when it comes up to the Bulldogs, they always perform their best. Even when they were going horribly, we were only able to beat them 14-8 or whatever it was because, or 14-6 because they actually put on a really good performance despite playing so poorly. So I don't think it's going to be that big of a blowout. I'll be happy to see it. If Lachlan Galvin comes on and absolutely brains it, that'll be fantastic. But I don't know if it's going to be that big of a score. Tiam is saying 28-14 to the Eels with the first try scorer at Accor. I actually don't know if that's a bad shout. I think that's a good shout, to be honest. In my opinion, I can't see the Eels scoring first. They did score first, I think, against the Panthers. So it's not a bad shout, but I think the Bulldogs will be prime.
I'll find out what time the gates open. Doggies has been asking. I did see it earlier, so I know where to see it.
Yeah, 2 p.m. I think the gates open 2 p.m. or 1:40 actually, because it'll be a bit early. I think it may be 1 o'clock because the Bulldogs are facing the Western Suburbs Magpies at Accor Stadium before the game.
I thought it was 12:30, but anyways, I'm about to find out.
It could be, but I'm pretty sure it opens quite a few hours before kickoff, so that you guys can get there nice and early. And as I said, the Bulldogs will be playing against the Western Suburbs, the New South Wales Cup, and actually, what's really surprising is that
Jamie.
Mitch Woods, who's in our top 30, has yet to play a single game of New South Wales Cup. Can you believe that, Dibbo? Mitch Woods, who was in the first grade top 30 team, has not yet debuted in New South Wales Cup, and this Monday will be his first game in New South Wales Cup.
I think gates open 3 o'clock. I've got told gates open at 3.
I don't think so. As I said,
if you go to premier.tickettech.com.au and you go to the Canterbury versus Eels game, and you scroll all the way down the bottom to where he says running times and click on that. He says box office 245, which is me. And then the rest of you's in the cattle class, which is gates open 3 p.m.
I'll tell you what. Let me just.
That's insane. An hour before kickoff. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, no, it's not.
With a 70,000 crowd. I can't be
definitely
right.
Not correct.
Surely that's off.
No, it's not right.
That has to be off.
Not right because, Dogs and Magpies play at 1:40 p.m. at Accor Stadium. So the stadium will be open from 1.
I reckon from 1. 1 sounds reasonable.
Yeah, as early as 1 p.m.
Or even 12:30, to be honest.
Yeah. So, I want to say a quick shout out to Jamie Teasdale. $5. He thinks 24-8. Dogs, Max King, Kiraz anytime try, and Burden man of the match. I think it's a great shout. I do think that the Dogs will win 13 plus. I don't know how big the win will be, but I reckon it'll be a big one. Tiam Ram reckons that Montoya to have a double, to get a double and have a blinder. Look, I could see that happening, although I think Montoya's been off the last few weeks. And by the way, Gerard Sutton is the referee. So I think that could be a big part of the game that affects us. But I just don't see us allowing such a big occasion to slip through the cracks. Like I said, we for Good Friday, we put 32 on the Rabbitohs and they couldn't score a single point. I do think that this game will be very similar. I don't know if the score's going to be that big, but I do think we're going to be very, very good. The Dogs will play hard. The Dogs will play fast, and I think that their defense is going to choke out the Eels, which is what I think is going to happen. Norm Eater reckons Lomax could get first try. I think that could also happen.
Good shout.
Yeah, bro. Look, I do want to talk a little bit about Origin after this. Once we get through the doggies talk, we'll talk about Origin. But I mean, surely as a Dragons fan, you've got to be upset that you guys don't have Lomax anymore.
I think with the
Surely.
money they freed up from him, no, not really, to be honest. Like, not me anyway. I don't know about the rest. I think the rest seem salty when you hear him just ran online. They're hating on him. No idea why. The guy just didn't want to be there. So, I mean, it's not like he went and badmouthed the club really badly afterwards. Not really. It was just, man, the guy wanted to leave a few years ago. I think he just wanted a change of scenery, which is fair enough. I mean, Harris Park or Kiama, I'm sure everyone will go choose Harris Park over Kiama. So, yeah, he wanted Harris Park. But he was on about 850K at the Dragons. They released him. They released Ben Hunt. They managed to sign some seasoned veterans, and I think Shane Flanagan went more over stability because he's got a lot of young guns coming through, and just needed the hardened, wizened heads to stabilise the club. Like, I know they're sitting 8th or whatever it is at the moment, and things could have been a lot better if they converted those 5 games they've lost by 2 points or less.
Yeah,
they won about 2
Yeah,
or 3 of them. That's sitting top 4, and it'd be looking really good. But as it stands, they lost games they should have won, and that could be the difference at the end of the year, whether they make the 8 or not. Personally, I never had them in the 8, so I'm actually surprised they're in the 8, and I'm actually even more surprised. Well, now it actually just feels like, just the Greens took away Christmas, because 5 games lost by 2 points or less, they could well be the surprise packets this year. Just by making the 8, not they're going to make a dent. And I don't think they're going to do anything against the Dolphins this week. I'm just looking at the lineup saying, I feel the Dolphins are the Dragons' bogey team, so definitely got the Dolphins winning this week anyway.
We'll go through the games a little bit later, but I just wanted to speak a little bit about Montoya. About Lomax, because I think he's been fantastic. But yeah, our record with Gerard Sutton's pretty bad. The boys in the comments are saying we're one from 18 with Sutton. Which is
I just want to throw a bit of a spanner in the works, David. There was about 5 years there. I think the Dogs won 14 games collectively, so of course their record was going to be really bad with him.
Yeah, that's a great point.
I'm being a prick, but yeah. Sorry, Dave.
No, you're right, man. You're right. Like it's
not as bad as it. It's worse. It's exaggerated worse, but don't forget those lean years. Of course, your win rate wasn't going to be as high. So, anyways, I like how you give it to the ref anyway. So, yeah.
Look,
actually,
I think
Gerard
Sutton can get quite bad with his refereeing. But anyway,
I
think it's going to be a great game. I think it's going to be a great game against the Eels. It's, Monday, public holiday, big crowd. I think Luca Moretti, I think, has been playing very well. The whole, like, Kitione Katonga obviously went across there from
having a great
season. He's been fantastic for them.
Junior Paulo skinnier.
Yeah, much skinnier. Where I do
moves more better now, not as robust, but moves better.
Yeah.
Jack Williams.
What I do think, where I do think their weaknesses is in the centres. I think that Will Penasini and Sean Russell are
horrible centre partnership.
I think it's a really bad centre pairing. And I do think that if we can get the ball to the edges with some speed, I think that both Sherry and Crichton can have a field day. I think, Sean Russell is a notoriously bad defender, a horribly bad defender. And Will Penasini, Will Penasini, I've realized not a bad defender, but has trouble turning and chasing. So, I feel like Burden and Kickout are going to absolutely make Sean Russell's life a living nightmare. Is what I think is going to happen. I think Kickout will have a great game. As long as we can defend and choke them out, I think they will struggle quite a bit, to be honest. So yeah, but I just want to quickly in the chat, they're saying weird. I used to always say Sherry next to Montoya. No, so Sherry and Montoya do play next to each other, but it's the way the numbers are set out in the list that are always weird. So it'll always be Crichton and Kiraz and Sherry and Montoya. But the numbers, the way the numbers work, I don't know why it is that way, but it's because it starts off the way if you were to look at it as a 13 on the field, it's like 1 at the back and then 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a bit weird. So I think it'll be it's always Crichton and Kiraz. Yeah, it's always going to be Crichton and Kiraz, Sherry and Montoya. I don't think they're going to make that change that quickly. Unless, hang on a second. No, definitely Montoya always plays on the left, and Kiraz always plays on the right. Yep, yeah, it is. So yeah, it's just weird the way the numbers work. Anyway, that's where I think they can get us. Where I think for us it can be lost. I think Marcelo Montoya, if they target Marcelo Montoya, with Adakar's speed, I think they can get us on the edge there. What do you think, Dibbo? Where do you think it's won and lost?
Oh, that's a good shout on the fringes. Yeah, that's a good shout. Adokar. I mean, you got Kiraz defense really well. Kiraz is gun. It's going to look. Is Adokar against Montoya?
Actually, I think Adokar's up against. He's up against. He's up against Kiraz. That'll be a good battle, actually. That's a great.
And then you got Lomax up against Montoya. Jeez.
Yeah.
Put up the high ball there. That could be. I reckon Lomax should go up against Kiraz. They're both great under the high ball. We'll both agree. And they're both fantastic. Damaging ball runners. The both of them. Both got a good offload on them. Yeah, I think that's going to be a mad. I hope they put Lomax up against Kiraz. That'll be entertaining to see. Yeah. I think this game is going to, again, be decided. Well, I mean, look at Parramatta's forwards. Geez, their forwards were good last week against Penrith.
Yeah, they were great. But
they can set up your forwards. They got a chance. They got some burners. I mean, their centers are poor though. Anyways,
but to be honest,
and the fullbacks.
I think that
the fullbacks too inexperienced.
Yeah, I agree. But he's been playing great. I think, to be honest, with the Panthers, their forward pack is probably one of the worst forward packs in the game.
Who?
The Penrith forward pack. I think is one of the worst forward packs in the game. And I think it's a lot of their troubles are because of their very poor forward pack. So if you look at
when you mean forward pack, you mean come on, they got Leota, they got I don't know, I'm hearing things here, but they got Leota, they got Yo, they got what's his name? Martin, they got Papali'i, they got Lindsay Smith.
Yeah.
Maybe their replacements are inexperienced, but they're becoming more formidable as the season goes on. They've had a slow start.
I think Lindsay Smith provides no-go forward. Isaiah Yo with the Panthers plays two sideways. As it's been very successful for them. But missing the fish, I think I think Yo needs to play a little bit more direct for the Panthers. Papali'i, I think, is injured. Scott Sorensen is not performing as they would have liked. I don't think he's driving any go forward. I just think that their forward pack hasn't been very impressive. Even I think you mentioned they've got Leota. I think Leota's been well below his best this year as well. Even in that grand final, I think he only played, very small number of minutes, maybe 18 minutes or something like that. Didn't run very hard. So that's where I think
I reckon they're about to catch fire and string some wins together. But anyways,
the Eels were a bit stronger in the packs, but their defense was great. The Panthers' defense was great. If we can match,
they never let up to their credit.
Yeah, if we can match that defensive effort from the Panthers, I think we'll choke the Eels out. And they'll score even less against us than they did against the Panthers. I'm just saying that I think the Panthers' forward pack is a bit weak. Ours is weak too, to be honest. Daniel Saluka-Fafita isn't the best. I'll be surprised if he plays more than 25 minutes. Although he did score a barnstorming try against the Eels the first time round, so it could be could be a big game for him. MKTV's made a really good point. After missing out on Galvin, I think the Eels will be out to prove a point. That's a great shout. I think it's a great shout. But I think ultimately we're a better team. We're more well-rounded. We have better attack. We've got better defense. And where it matters, we have them covered across the park. And I think, to be honest, I actually think if Galvin does play, Galvin will be out to prove a point too. That's what I think you also have to keep in mind, that Galvin will want to be there, right, to show that the fans, especially in front of 60, 70,000 fans, that Galvin, that he's not a waste of time and that he's going to make a difference. So I do think he'll probably get either a late try or a late try assist. I know it's a big call, but I just think that with a fading Eels defense in the last sort of 15 minutes, Galvin will show us what he's made of. Zatar has just joined the chat. I want to say welcome Zatar. He's saying that it'll only be our discipline that it will let us down. If we complete at 85%, they won't beat us. I agree. If we complete at 85%, I think even if we complete at 80% and we defend well, they won't come close to us. Because I think we've got the measure, as I said, everywhere else. Brian 30104. Kiraz will stop Fox because he'll get in that room. He won't be worried about needing to help Critter. I think you're right. I think that Kiraz knows what to expect from the Fox, and I think that Ciraldo will also have a plan for the Fox. However, if the Eels do target the edges, I think that's where their best chances will come from. They won't. I don't think they'll be able to get anything up the middle. I think someone like Jack Williams has a mistake in him, especially if put under pressure. And what I think will happen this game is our forwards will go right through the middle consistently. Consistently, we'll go through the middle, and then we'll attack very crisp on the edges and score outside their centers, because I think their centers are absolutely trash. And so that's where I think it's done. Normita saying Fox isn't the best under the high ball either. Completely agree. I think Fox can be targeted, but he's been a lot better this year under the high ball. So yeah, that's what I think. I think that the Eels are in for a tough day against a Dogs team that is very, very determined. The poll, 43% of people think that the Bulldogs will win 13 plus. So that's also sort of interesting. 32% think it's 1-12. 24% of people think that the Eels will win. Excuse me?
Elmo not happy. Elmo not happy. That's about 9 out of 37. Wow. 9 out of the 37. Have you been invaded by Parramatta fans?
I don't know, dude. That's pretty bad. I highly doubt that.
9 out of 37.
Yeah, but I mean, look, it is a danger game for us, and we've got to play well to sort of send the message to the league. Now, if there's no more thoughts on that, Dibbo, I want to talk a little bit about State of Origin.
Oh yeah, fly into it.
I want to talk a little bit about State of Origin.
You haven't stopped talking about Critter.
I don't know if you could blame me for talking about Critter, but let me tell you, I think Critter is without a doubt. I'm going to be very honest with you. He's without a doubt one of the best centers to ever play the game, and if he continues on the same trajectory as he is right now, I reckon Critter will be amongst the immortals.
How old is he?
How
old is he now?
English. 25.
Still a baby.
He's already won 3 grand finals.
4. Oh, 3. You're right. He didn't play last
3.
year. Yeah, sorry.
He's played in 4 grand finals. He's not even 25 years old yet. And he's captain of the team leading the competition. Where Critter can go from here is anyone's guess. I did jump the gun and say, is he one of the best centers to ever, whatever, this and that. But honestly, Critter played that Origin game with very little training. Remember, at the beginning of the day, on that Wednesday, he was 50-50. Right? He was 50-50 to play. That's the first thing. The second thing is he actually hurt his elbow during the game. And when To'o got sin binned, They moved Lomax to the other side to defend against Xavier Coates, and Critter defended on that edge on his own.
Oh, look
And
at the
mind
place
you-
he's defending against. Insane.
Hammer and Holmes, two
Oh,
very
yeah.
quick, very good attackers. The way he was able to defend in that situation, I think, very few players in the history of the game would be able to pull off what he pulled off. I know that's glazing Critter, but the dude is 24 years old. If he was in his 30s, well, I would say, all right, cool. But he's 24, turning 25 years old. The guy, you could say, he's already peaked or whatever, but I think if he keeps going at this rate and at this trajectory, he's going to get better. His attack will improve, right? But even that try that he set up for Lomax, the way he caught the ball, stepped off his right, then ran at an angle to attract the defenders, and then threw the ball to a Lomax who had no one on him. Like, this is high IQ footy. High IQ footy. Like, they said that Payne Haas was player of the match. Look, I can't argue with that. Payne Haas is incredible, and I think he'll go down as the best prop to ever play the game, probably next to Lazo. Or Petro.
Payne Haas.
Yeah.
He's already gone past Lazo. Lazo wasn't that athletic. I watched him play. Wasn't near as athletic as that. He's gone past Lazo already.
I think Lomax was great, but in terms of making game-defining plays, I think Critter had 3 or 4 in the game that really stood out to me. And I thought he was my player of the match in terms of how he defended, how he attacked, how that real leadership that he showed was incredible. And to play with an injury, even though it was a cork, to play with that injury, I almost feel like you can't really describe what he did for the Blues on that day. You can't give it its full credit. You've got to go and sort of watch it, especially in the moment when everything was happening. It was just like the Queensland I felt like they had no answers. I felt like they threw a lot, but they had no answers. And sure, Inglis was incredible. His presence was amazing. And I think the only other centre I would ever compare to Inglis in Origin is probably Latrell. I probably wouldn't compare Critter to Inglis. They're a different type of player. But I've got to say, for Origin,
Inglis is the greatest backliner of all time.
Up there, Critter is just he is on another level. He's a different type of player. But I think once he retires in 10 years or whatever, he will go down as one of the best ever, not just centers, but I think players. And that's my rant about Critter. I can't get over what our captain was able to do at Origin. I can never get over that. I genuinely can't get over how good he was, and I think he's going to have to have an absolute blinder against the Eels, because I think he's going to come back and he's going to want to show people that, Origin isn't a fluke.
If he got man of the match there, because I was thinking, it was crazy. I was thinking it would go either Haas, Lomax, and then Critter. And then if he got it, there was no complaints, because he absolutely deserved to get man of the match. Based on his fates, in the first half, he was a rock, honestly. He set up that first try. He beat Valentine Holmes, all ends up, drew 3 defenders, passed the ball out to Lomax. That was line break and try assist to Critter. And then there was that amazing 10-minute period in the second half where he defended the Hammer by himself. We know Hammer can run past whole sides. And obviously Valentine Holmes, who's a robust runner as well, and he took them both on, swallowing them by himself. It was insane. It's one of the better Origin performances, standout performances.
Was Hammer even playing? Honestly, was Hammer even playing?
Absolutely shut him out. He shut him out last year. Last year, he did the same thing. Not as dominant as that, but he was dominant last year against the Hammer as well. If you remember Game 3, he shut him down.
Oh, yeah. He
dragged him back into. He absolutely dominated 2 players there. It was just insane. He doesn't get the accolades as much as because people compare him to Inglis. Everyone remembers Inglis had an absolutely amazing running game. If you remember Inglis, he just either run around you, through you, over you, under you, whatever. Take your pick. He could barge you, like 10 players over. Like you remember the scene those tries when he was at South for Brisbane. You know, how many did he beat? 6, 7 players in that one run. Did it twice in the one game. And then obviously remember Melbourne. He used to burn players when he was, when he was skinnier. He was quicker than probably every player in the NRL at that stage when he was a lot skinnier. And
absolute freak.
He won a Clive Churchill medal playing 5'8". He could have played in the forwards and killed people. Because of that, because he had such a dominant running and attacking game, people are looking at Critter and trying to compare him to that. But completely, Critter's got his pros that most other players have never had. It's just good,
especially at this age.
Oh yeah. That game he produced for New South Wales, one of the best in the backline I've seen from a player in recent years. Definite stand, one of the standouts.
I think he's close to being the next captain once Yo's gone. I think he'll come close to being the next Blues captain, if not Cleary, then him. Because I just think like what he brings.
Oh, I'll just give it to him. Cleary can focus on just doing what he does.
Although I've got to say, I thought Cleary had a great game. Sure, his kicking was crap.
No one had a good kicking game. That turf was ugly.
Yeah, the turf was bad. I don't know what else it was, but I thought Cleary had a very good game. I thought he ran a lot.
He was always at the line. How did they give him 5 out of 10?
Yeah, bro, whoever it was.
What was that?
Smoking, yeah. It reminded me a lot of the way he played against Melbourne in that grand final last year. Right? Like last year, if you remember,
Brisbane
ran in the grand final, even Brisbane. But in the grand final last year against Melbourne, he ran for over 200 meters. I think he took like 16 or 18 runs for over 200 meters. And I feel like he did the same against Queensland. He ran a lot, and Queensland had no idea how to defend against him. There were multiple times where he would make a tackle break. He was everywhere. And the thing I liked about it was, at no point did it feel like he was flustered. At no point did it feel like he didn't know what he needed to do. I just felt like he threw the right passes. His pass selection was great. His timing was great. And he was the dominant player. And credit to Mitchell Moses. I know we're coming up against him, for the Eels, but credit to Mitchell Moses. He stepped right back. He said, "This is Nathan's team. I'll slot in where I'm needed." He was happy to let his ego go and let Nathan take control. And to be honest, like as such a dominant 7 that Cleary is, for him to do that, like credit to him, that was really good to see. And I think they're gonna get better. I think in game 2, especially there at Perth, it would be a great game. And I honestly reckon the Blues win big at Origin in Perth. And I reckon it's going to be a whitewash. I don't think that no matter what changes
that'd be nice.
Queensland make. Yeah, I think
3-0.
No matter what changes
Women couldn't do it,
make, whatever changes Queensland make, I don't think they can make enough changes for the team to be that much better where they can beat the Blues. But quickly on that, Barnett, unfortunately, out for the season with an ACL. He'll be missing. He'll be missing for the rest of the year. So there's a prop spot open there for the Blues. Laurie Daly's come out on radio and he said they're looking at Ito Ikamanu. They're looking at Terrell May. They're looking at Keon Kalamatangi and Jake Trebojevic. Right?
Jake Trebojevic.
Yeah.
Queensland will be praying.
Who do you think takes Barney's spot there? How do you think it should be done? Or what do you think they should do?
I've liked the way Keon Kalamatangi's played over the last month. He's got some powerful runs in him. He's a second rower that's become a front rower. I mean, I won't complain. Terrell May or Keon, I won't complain. Either one, I'll be cheering if I get one of them. Honestly, I'll definitely take both if I could. But I'm just going to go for Keon because I think he offers just that bit more with his impactful runs. That's all. Work rate wise,
Can I,
yeah, go on.
sorry, no, you go on.
I'm saying work rate wise, Terrell May doesn't stop. He does not stop. But just thinking, it's an Origin arena. It's not a club game. If I have two spots available, I'd pick them both. But I'll go Keon Koloamatangi. He's just wow. Bloody Wayne Bennett. He can sniff it out a mile away.
Zatar, you think Keon over Terrell May as well? I'm surprised. I thought you would have.
No, I won't go Utakamanu. He's not even in the frame for me at all. Please.
Yeah, I never understood.
If I had three, if he was the third out of those three, and say he was the third option, he'd still be my third option. Honestly, I would even pick him ahead of. I would even pick him ahead of some other props in the game at the moment.
Look, I would even go as far as to say if you're going to choose Yutoi Kamanu, I would actually not. I would choose Olakawatu there. Start Max King, have Olakawatu on the bench rather than choosing Yutoi Kamanu. I think Yutoi Kamanu has been so very poor this year for the Storm. I think he's averaging at about 100 meters. But let me ask you this then. Let's say they go with Keon. Would you start Keon or would you start Max King alongside Payne Haas and then have Keon on the bench as an impact prop?
I would start Keon Koloamatangi. He's a bigger bopper.
Really?
Max King was great coming off that bench for New South Wales. I can stick with that.
Yeah, okay. So let's get to it. I think that either Keon or Terrell May, I think are both great options. I think it has to be one of them two.
Let Keon observe that because Keon's been in that arena before. Don't forget.
That's right. At second row though, he didn't play a prop,
and he's played Test football for Tonga against Australia and New Zealand. You know, he can go in there and he can go in the trenches and absorb the hard up front battles. You know, and still be standing. And then obviously when the game starts opening up, people like Max King really excel. He's got the extra leg speed in him as well.
Yeah, look, I'm happy with either. I was actually really interested to hear Laurie Daly even suggest that Terrell May was on the radar to replace Mitch Barnett, which for me is great. I think like you can't not consider Terrell May. But if Keon Koloamatangi is chosen, honestly, I'm his biggest support. Like I would be so happy for him, and I think that his move to prop should be permanent. Honestly, I reckon he should start always at prop. I feel like
I hope when I just hope Daly doesn't run with Jake Trbojevic. That will burn me so bad. Like, I'll pray for a Queensland win if he runs with Jake Trbojevic.
No, they won't. He won't. Look,
honestly,
Jake Trbojevic
just for his shit fuckery. Sorry to swear, but if he goes with Jake Trbojevic, I'll pray that Queensland wins and wins handsomely as well.
Yeah. I look. You could play with 16 players, not have a replacement for Barnett, and I still think New South Wales would win.
Oh yeah.
That's honestly that's my hot take.
Provided it picks the right team.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think there'll be very few changes in that team. The one change I would make is just Hudson Young. I think I would have Olakawatu, excuse me, in there over Hudson Young, but I get if Hudson Young does get his second chance.
Do you always get the feeling that Perth feels like it's a big pitch, feels bigger for some reason?
Way too big, yeah. Yeah.
It just feels like that. So I feel like something like that would absolutely suit Hudson Young because he's absolutely a speedy back rower. Obviously.
Look, I thought Hudson Young didn't have his best performance, but I don't think he needed to do much anyway. So if they want to choose him again, that's fine. I think whoever they end up choosing, as long as it's not Gerbo, I think if Gerbo gets chosen, it'll just show that Laurie Daly's got no idea what he's doing. But the game plan, the way we played, I think it had Craig Bellamy's fingerprints all over it. And I think Craig Bellamy will make some good decisions. They'll bring in either Terrell May or Keon Koloamatangi. And honestly, I reckon it's going to be a whitewash. I think we'll win and win well at Perth. Moses and Cleary will be much better for having played game one together. And I just reckon it's going to be I reckon it'll be like 38-12 or something like that. That's what I think that's what I think is going to happen. I think it'll be 38-12. What do you think?
Oh. Yeah, I want to see who Queensland picks before I say that. But yeah, I mean, I would even suggest, remember when Turbo burnt them there? Far out, 44-4. That would be nice.
Yeah.
44-4.
Okay. Actually, now that you brought up Queensland, what changes would you make to the Queensland team? I need to talk about this because I think Queensland are in a lot of trouble.
Walsh better set the wall alight if because it looks like they're just some players they really need to phase out. So Walsh needs to set the wall alight. Dearden probably needs to start. He did show a bit when he came off the bench. Who do you use in the Robert Toyer was great. I didn't care what anyone says. It was up against the
Robert Toyer was excellent.
I thought he was fantastic. Robert Toyer, good. He'll hold his position there. I'm trying to think who you can use from the backs. Is Jai Arrow available? What about that?
Yeah, Jai Arrow is available. Corey Horsburgh's available.
Yeah, Horsburgh will definitely, he has to come in. Jai Arrow, I feel like, has to come in. I was going to say Jaden Saw, but now he's got a syndesmosis injury.
I was going to say Jaden Saw as well, but he's only out for 1 week. It's just a low-grade syndesmosis, so he could potentially come in.
I mean, and you know what? Kurt Capewell, I know he's not sitting. He's not exactly killing it, but he's been solid for the Warriors.
Do you know what left field call I would make? Honestly, I would if I was Billy Slater, I would send an SOS to Josh Papali'i.
Come out of retirement.
I think he's one of the only props that would.
Yeah, but he's been coming off the bench. But he's been coming off the bench for Canberra now.
That's fine. Yeah, leave him come off the bench for Canberra.
I don't know if he can handle the pace.
Look, he can be like your Spencer Leniu for Queensland. Because if you look at the bench, he had literally zero impact other than Dearden. You had Trent Loera, you had Beau Fermor and Lindsay Collins, who did nothing.
Lindsay Collins was underdone. He had played one game back, so he's probably underdone a bit. I still expect him to get his ass kicked anyway. So yeah, so be it.
I think
I don't know. They're really going to start blooding the next generation. They're going to start phasing him out.
Yeah, even Dearden. Everyone's saying Dearden at 7. I don't even think Dearden's a good 6, so I don't think he'll make a good 7, and it definitely won't be good in Origin. If he's 7 in Origin, I think that we beat them by even more. The only difference is that maybe he'll defend a little bit better than DCE, but I think overall DCE, even at 39, 40 years old, he's a better 7 than I think Dearden will ever be. Dearden is not the answer for them at 7. So I think they have to stick with DCE. I think it's their props. So even Munster, who's not very old, couldn't get any of his magic going because the props couldn't get any go forward. So what I would say is that they need to fix their bench. They need more go forward from their props.
Yeah. Toyer was one center, Hammer was the other center. I mean,
yeah.
Man, Dane Gagai, is he retired from rep footy?
Yeah, he's a bit old, but he's too slow for it. He's not even playing well for the Knights. You can't throw him into rep footy.
Gun. Yeah, he's gun. He was hitting it hard against St. George. He was their best player on the field. I'd say Dane Gagai.
Honestly, I think what they need is big bodies in the backs to help the forwards coming out of trouble. So I think if you have a Selwyn Cobbo and tell him, I'm expecting you to take 15, 20 runs and get us out of trouble, and you tell Xavier Coates the same thing, I think that helps them not get choked by the Origin defense. I know this is going to sound very cocky as a Doggies fan, but I thought the way the Blues defended was very similar to the way the Dogs defend. Is that kick long and choke them out in defense. Quick line speed, which is it's the age-old recipe for success. Kick long, choke them out of defense. Kick long, choke them out in defense. And so what you need is big boppers to get you out of trouble. And I felt like Xavier Coates, Valentine Holmes, Robert Toyer, Xavier and Hammer, I feel like they didn't do that enough. I think they just did not do that enough, and they need bigger bodies. I think Robert Toyer did well in defense. I think in attack he didn't offer too much. I think also Valentine Holmes was not very good, unfortunately. So I think they need bigger bodies there. That's what they need. They need bigger bodies, and they need big bodies on the bench. Like I would go Horsburgh at the very least on the bench.
I'd start him. Queensland need powerful ball runners coming from the back. Maybe Cobbo might get a run. I mean,
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was saying before. That they need those powerful.
They can't match New South Wales. Look at New South Wales back five. Powerful runners.
And to think that New South Wales could still bring in Kiraz if they needed to, who was just as powerful as To'o and Lomax. Like, we're spoiled for choice.
They could maybe lend him to Queensland. Isn't Belmore in Queensland anyway? With same way as Kempsey was in Queensland.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kempsey's in Queensland. Yeah.
I think no matter who they bring, I mean Walsh is back this week for the Broncos. So does he get a look in? I think whatever they do, I think that the Blues have their number in both aggression, in team, in personnel and everything. I think that Blues are better. And the other thing I think as well is that Billy Slater refuses to acknowledge that he made a mistake with his bench. His bench was atrocious. For me, I actually would have had Kurt Mann on the bench somewhere because I think Kurt Mann offers a lot both in attack and in defense. I think I've said it before and I'll say it again. Billy Slater is the Brad Fittler of Queensland.
Started off on a bang and it's fizzled out. That's why when we Fittler couldn't get it right.
Elmo, TM's asking Elmo, what do you think about Reed starting 9 because he's tackling worker, then have Grant come off the bench? I think that's probably one of the best moves they can make. Whether it's Reed, whether it's Kurt Mann, whether it's someone else that they throw at 9 and have Grant coming off the bench, I don't think they should start with Grant. There was some crazy stat that apparently every game that Grant has started in Origin, the Queensland have lost. And for every game that he's come off the bench, which is 8, they've won 6. So it's interesting. Will Ben Hunt be back by then? Could they throw him to start at 9? Could they throw him to start at 9 potentially instead of Grant? Maybe, but then do you carry Dearden who misses out? Does Dearden get dropped? I think the great thing about being a New South Wales supporter is that Queensland know how it feels to have a shit coach and a shit team. So it's up to the Blues now to just show up and perform and make our state proud. So I'm going to say big win for the Blues there in Perth. Dibbo, what do you think?
Yeah, definitely 44-4. Let's hope. I reckon Queensland's just no matter what team they put out there, if New South Wales puts their best team forward, they can't match it.
Who do you think man of the match? Who do you think will get man of the match for that game?
In Perth?
Yeah.
It's a fast track, man. Perth. Who's quick in the New South Wales team? No one. Wait. Trelawney. Who's the other centre? Oh, Crichton. Hang on a sec. Wingers are... Brian Dole's playing
and Lomax.
Big field. I reckon Nathan Cleary.
Yeah, I think Nathan Cleary's going to
I think more space for him means more. He's going to slice it. But Hammer will be a threat. Hope they don't choose him.
Yeah, Hammer will get chosen. Well, I actually, it's interesting. Someone's saying Hammer should be at fullback. I disagree. I think that Hammer offers very little creativity. He offers speed. He offers size, but no creativity.
Now he's going to kill St. George this week. Thanks a lot, mate.
I don't think so. But yeah, I reckon it's going to be Blues. I reckon it's going to be Blues by a pretty big margin. And then Slater's going to come out and make some bullshit comment like, we are Queenslanders. All I can say to Billy Slater is, bro, I loved you as a player. You're a grub then. You're a grub now. Player. No one likes Queenslanders.
I love him as a commentator as well.
Oh, he's a great commentator. No. Well, honestly,
him and Cam Smith, what brains, eh? And then... I hate how
you compare them to the Blues, compare them to the Johns and Fittler, and Fittler and Johns are dribblers compared to
who's
Slater and
sorry, I know we're going, but you know who's good besides Cooper Cronk on that Fox Sports shows? Kieran Foran. Wow.
Oh yeah, good. I think Kieran Foran's great.
You know what was insane? Brad Fittler. I mean, not Brad. Brythan Essa was hosting the show, and then he had Cooper Cronk and Kieran Foran. Then I said, "What's Brythan Essa even doing on that show?" Foran should be hosting, and obviously with Cronk as his co-host, and Anasta should even have a job there. It's ridiculous.
Do you know? Hang on. Do you know who
should
I
even
think
have a
is
job in
great?
media at all? Huh?
Do you know who I think is great when it comes to Fox Sports? Who's absolutely
Sure.
great?
Don't tell me Gordon Tallis.
It's Sean Johnson.
Yeah. But I thought Kieran
love
Foran
hearing him
was
speak.
wow. Kieran
Yeah,
Foran
yeah.
was amazing. Him and
Very,
Kipper
very
Cronk, they
good
went hand in hand. You see them going back and forth.
They were great.
And I thought,
yeah,
fuck,
Cooper
Braith
Cronk's
Anasta, they
fantastic,
should just cancel Braith Anasta's contract and replace him with them.
I don't
See
know.
you
Bro. I
later.
think Braith Anasta's been all right.
No,
I don't
he
mind
should go.
Braith.
He should be shoveling, doing council work, please. How's that guy even on TV? Fuck, he must have the
It's 'cause
best
he's-
manager.
You know why? It's because he's very pro Bulldogs. It's why I like him.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
All right. Very quickly, in about 15 minutes, I want to just go through the games that are upcoming. So first game that we've got will be the Knights and the Sea Eagles. I thought the Sea Eagles played very well against a very, 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 very bad Broncos team. I mean, it just warms my heart how bad the Broncos are going. Makes me very, very happy. And I'm sure Jamie Teasdale is also very happy that, excuse me, that the Broncos are going poorly. I reckon Manly's going to have a field day with this one. I think the Knights will struggle to score points again. Yeah, I'm calling this to Manly. I'm going to say 30-6 or 36-6. Interestingly, Lachlan Croker is back starting at hooker after having issues with his HIAs and stuff. So good to see. Gerbo is back as well. But yeah, I don't see the Knights doing much in this game. Thoughts on this one, Dibbo?
Yeah, good shout. 36-6. Oh yeah, I'd go something similar. 30-12 maybe. This could be the last game of Adam O'Brien.
I think honestly, I almost get the feeling that the Knights players are tanking games.
And Matt, tell you what's been a blessing for Manly.
Yeah,
they're learning how to play without Tom Toborovic. Man, I'd release him, man. You say a bit. He hardly played the last couple of years. Honestly, all these young guns, Levo Hopewadi and Fualalo, and all these guys coming through. Free up that money and see you later. He's hardly played the last few years. He's made out of plastic.
I would move him to centre.
I would move him out of the club.
Honestly, the only reason I'd move him to centre is just because his body's not able to handle it. So I would definitely move him to centre. Leo Hopewadi's killing it. But yeah, so yeah, I think Sipley comes back into prop as well because Takayaho's still injured. Interestingly, Lodge isn't in the 17. I thought Lodge has played.
He barely played last week. They only gave him about 10 minutes, which was interesting.
But I thought he's been very, very.
He had a good first game, and then he barely played the second, and now he's in the squad, but not in the 17. Maybe they might give him reserve grade this week, like 60, 70 minutes again. Get more match fitness. Yeah.
Yeah, and just on the Knights, like, they've got Jackson Hastings there. They can't win a game and can't score tries to save their lives. He refuses to use him. And he's also dropped one of their best go-forward wingers in Greg Marju. I know he's got problems under the high ball, but he's got two really inexperienced players there in Kyle McCarthy and Fletcher Hunt. I just
Man,
think
he's
Adam
silly.
O'Brien...
He really needs to give...
board,
he's got to give Jackson Hastings a run. He honestly needs to give Jackson... So what's he got him at? 18?
Yeah.
Wow, that's the closest. He's getting desperate.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Wow, about time he got him there. Okay. Some positives?
Yeah, look, I think that the sooner Adam O'Brien leaves the team, that club, the better it will be for the whole Newcastle team. Because
they need a reinvigoration.
All right, so then we've got the Storm and the Cowboys.
Ooh, tough.
Nah, at Amy Stadium, I think the Storm will put 40 on them quite easily.
Really? I'm going to go Storm by 10. I'm going to be a clinical win.
30.
I hope so, but 26-16 to the Storm.
Can I just give you my logic, Dibbo? Can I give you my quick logic?
Oh, go for your life. Yeah, I'm listening.
Against the Tigers, the Storm looked good because the Tigers had two sin bins. I'm not blaming the Cowboys for the sin bins or anything. I'm just saying...
Oh, you meant the Cowboys looked good against the Tigers. Sorry, yeah.
Right, the Cowboys looked good against the Tigers only because of those sin bins. When the Tigers were able to play a few minutes together as a team of 13, the Cowboys had nothing. And I think the Cowboys' position on the ladder right now is not a real indication of how bad the Cowboys actually are. It's definitely flattering them. I think the Storm are going to put on an absolute clinic. The Cowboys are going to be like, oh my God, what just happened to us? The Storm didn't play that well against the Titans, even though the conditions were pretty bad. I think Grant will have a good game. Munster wants to have a good game before, he gets called up again for the Queensland team. I just don't see the Cowboys performing very well at all. I just don't think they're that good this year. They're getting lucky in some games, and their draw's been okay. They're not. Yeah, I don't think they're going to even come close. I think that the Storm will win by the length of the straight. I think they'll put 30 or 40 on them. And I think Pappenhausen will be either Pappenhausen or Grant will be man of the match. Then we've got the Dolphins and the Dragons. 8 p.m. Friday night.
I've looked at the Dragons losing Saw is a big loss. I've looked at both lineups, and you know what? I actually thought Lawson played way better than Sloan last week, and I think Sloan's been off the last few weeks, so he's actually put Sloan outside the 17, which I think is a fair call. Sloan was horrendous last week against Newcastle. Blew a few chances, couldn't catch a high ball, didn't get involved. Whereas Lawson was nailing the high balls. His running end was impeccable. He made a line break or two. I think his position there is well warranted. Maybe Sloan needs a rest and reconsider. Just have a look. But he'll get back in the 17, I hope. Anyways, we'll see how Tui Pilotti goes. But Tui Pilotti's in for a torrid day. He's either got Bostock or Osako. And if they utilise their running game and their kicks properly, the Dolphins, and they normally do with Qatar pulling the strings, I think they're going to smash St. George. I hope I'm wrong. I really do. I'm actually fearing that. Yeah. I hope the Dolphins forwards have a poor game. That's the only way we're going to beat them, if their forwards are completely off.
I think
their backs. Go
on. I actually don't agree with you, to be honest. I think that
this guy is such the contrarian. At least vindicate me.
I'm not, but bro, I said, hang on. I said to you from the beginning of the year that I think the Dragons will make the top 8. You can even ask my wife. I told her that I think the Dragons will make the top 8.
They've lost too many close games they should have won.
But it shows that they're not off the mark. They're not that far off the pace. And so for me,
the ladder will sort itself out in about a month's time.
I think, and I think that the Dragons will be up there in the top 8. I'm tipping the Dragons by 6 points. I think the Dragons will win. I think it'll be a tough game. It'll be a gritty game, but I think the Dragons' defense will be great. Christian Tuipulotu to score a double, and I think the props will aim up against Francis Molo for being a dog. That's what I think.
I don't think he got any bad issues with him. I think he got on fine with the boys there. I think the Dolphins just got too much firepower in the back line, too much pace, and that Qatar's kicking game.
It's great.
Amazing. Look at St. George's. Look who's kicking for St. George. Forget it.
Yeah, I know. But this guy's back. I expect him to make his way into the 17. I think he's fantastic.
I would have loved for him to be playing from the start of the year uninterrupted, so he can force his way into Queensland.
I think he can still force his way in if he has a good game.
I hope so.
I think he's great. I do think he'll play. But then Jeremy Marshall-King's there as well. So I think that's interesting. So they've got both Max Plath and Jeremy Marshall-King in the extended bench. I think one of them at least will come in. I want to see for the Dragons. I want to see Hame Sele come back to the top grade. I'm not sure why they still haven't played him in first grade yet.
He's competing against Blake Laurie. He's got no chance. I don't know how Blake Laurie still makes it.
Yeah, anyways. I don't know how Blake Laurie's there either. But I hope Hame Sele does get swapped in for Blake Laurie. I will tell you what though, Loco Pacifici Tonga had a great game last week, and it was good to see him score a try as well. Hamish Stewart and Toby Couchman as well, bro. Your juniors are killing it. Great game by them.
Thank you.
So I'm going to say Dragons by 6.
I'm going to go Dolphins by 16 or 22, maybe even more. But let's just go with 16 or 22.
Bro, do you know what? If the Dolphins, if the Dragons win next week, you're going to have to wear a Doggies jersey because you are not a Dragons supporter.
All right, done.
What? The Dragons are going to win, and you're going to have to wear a Dragons.
I'm sitting here. I'm telling you now. I'm sitting here, all confidence in the world.
Then you got the Warriors and the Sharks over there at Shark Stadium. Sharks coming off a really poor defeat against the Roosters, missing their state of origin players.
I'm absolutely fuming Barnett's out of this because I was going
Me
to
too.
convincingly say or confidently say the Warriors are going to keep adding to the Sharks' woes and Warriors are going to win again. So Morata Niokora goes into the front row. Halasimo, he's a gun. Back into the second row.
So Jackson Ford starts at prop. Marata Niokore stays in the second row.
Okay. Barnett's a huge loss. He holds that forward pack together. That's just a shattering loss.
I still think that the Sharks are going to lose. I think the Warriors are going to win by 4 points. I think the Warriors still win. Yeah, I think the Warriors are on a roll. Luke Metcalf is getting better and better every week. And I just, even though they're missing Barnett, I think James Fisher-Harris being there will add a lot. And I think Wade Egan's been playing so well. Like I just feel like, even though the Sharks had a bad game against the Roosters, I feel like the Warriors have too much momentum to get stopped, in my opinion. So that's what I think. What do you think?
Agreed. Oh, I hope the Warriors win anyway. That's what I'm going to say. I still got them. Sharks have been awful for the plot for their playing roster. They've been awful. Don't know what's happened there.
Yeah,
they're not gelling. They're like Brisbane. They're not gelling this year.
They had a good win against the Storm. They had a great win against the Storm, and then
they absolutely shut the bed the next week. So yeah,
they shit the bed. So, then the next game. I know we're sort of taking our time, but I really love talking about this. It's the very bad Broncos against the improving Titans. And interestingly, Jaden Campbell
Titans
is at
dreadful.
1 again.
Who?
Jaden Campbell's at 1, and then you've got Foran and Weaver at 6 and 7. You're gonna laugh at me, but
Broncos by 4.
Titans. I'm gonna say Titans by 12. I reckon Titans by 12.
Well, it's not a bad shout, to be honest. I got the Broncos by 4.
I'll tell you something. Even with Reece Walsh back there, I think that the Broncos have an existential problem, and it's not something you can fix with personnel.
We'll see how we
go. He's made the change so that Corey Jensen and Payne Haas are up front with Carrigan at lock. He's gone with Jordan Ricky at second row, Brendan Piakura at second row. So he's pretty much gone back to the 2024 team, with the exception of Gahamat Shibasaki at center.
Right.
I even though I rate Xavier Willison and Ben Takura, and I think Billy Walters has been good, I think that the Titans have shown more effort than the Broncos. I know they've been pretty poor,
100%.
but the Titans have showed more effort than the Broncos. And I think for me, any team that can out-effort the Broncos will beat them. And so that's why I think that the Titans will win by 12 points. I actually think someone like Katoni Staggs should actually be dropped from the team. I think he's been one of their worst. Has shown absolutely no ticker in defense. No ticker. At least get Shibasaki's trying to defend. I think that Katoni Staggs has just been really, really poor. The other one who I think has been really poor is both Corey Pakes and Kobe Hetherington. How they're in the team, I don't get it.
Corey Jensen's now. Thank God he's starting now.
Yeah, I don't understand. Like, these guys, like, it's almost like he's gambled on them and he's too afraid to go back on his gamble. I think Corey Pakes and Kobe Hetherington both should be dropped. I think Billy Walters should start at 9 and spend the majority of the game there at 9. But having said that, I do see the Titans winning. I think that Kieran Foran and Tom Weaver could probably direct them around the park a little bit better than AJ Brimson and Jaden Campbell. So I'm going to say Titans by 12, which is my sort of hot take of the week.
Good shout, Elmo.
And it's just so good. Just so good seeing the Broncos implode again. It warms warms a New South Welshman's heart. Sunday, 2 p.m. Raiders and Rabbitohs. I think this will be a great game.
Another good game.
They do.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so they do get Fogarty back. Fogarty is back, as is Tom Starling, who comes straight back into the starting team. I thought Ethan Sanders had a great game last week against the Roosters. For a young kid to come in is brilliant. Owen Paddy, wow. I think in the next 3 to 4 years, he could become one of the best nines in the competition. He is absolutely amazing. Kicked the 40-20. The way he played, I thought was just really, really well done. It'll be interesting to see how they manage having him, Jaden Brayley, and Tom Starling in the team, because they're all sort of signed now until 27. But yeah, it'll be interesting. I also thought, Simi Sasangi had a great game last week as well against.
Of course, on the way up.
Yeah. I thought he was great against the Roosters. Now, in terms of the Rabbitohs, so
Good
Humphries is there. Yeah, Cody Walker's back. Jack Wyden's
Ooh,
back.
Your favourite.
Wow.
Wow.
The
Personnel's back. They're all fit and firing.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I've got to give a shout out to Alex Johnston, only the second player in the history of the game since 1908 to score 200 tries. What a great performance. Whether he catches the ball and puts it over the line or he's a good finisher, I don't think that should be part of the discussion. The fact that he's at 200 tries and only 13 away from breaking. Yeah,
How come nobody stormed the field? I was disappointed. In AFL, as soon as they kicked 1,000 goals, and there's only about 6 or 7 players that have done in AFL. This guy's the second ever to do 200. I can't believe nobody jumped the fence and crowd. Worth the risk for $5,000 fine. So what happens when he breaks the record? They're just going to sit there and go.
I hope they celebrate it.
I hope we all jump the fence.
Him. Yeah.
Let's just jump the fence. Anyways,
everyone's saying Raiders. I actually think Souths will win this one. Won't be an easy game, but I think Souths will get this one because I think they've got a decent sized bench.
They're improving
Sullivan
as well.
At 14.
Right.
Pardon?
Yeah, wow, they're really improving.
Yeah. And I think they have a lot of attack in this team, and as long as they can keep up to pace with the Raiders, I think they'll have the ability to outmatch them. And I think Latrell has been on fire. Had a great game last against the Warriors. I just think they'll have a little bit too much for the Raiders, just because the Raiders haven't yet had a bye. I think they're going to start getting tired. Otherwise, I would have said maybe Raiders by 6. But I just feel like it was a tough game against the Roosters. They had a tough game against the Warriors. They still haven't yet had a bye. Their team's quite young. I think that the Rabbitohs will just be a little bit more refreshed than them. So I'm going to say Rabbitohs in a very close one.
I'm going to go the Raiders 24-18.
Yeah, good shout. I honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if the Raiders win. I'm a big fan of the Raiders. I want to see them do well. And so whoever wins in that one, I'll be happy. I just want to see a good game. Now, another battle of the West, Panthers versus Tigers. This will be an interesting game. Jarrell Skelton is back. He makes his way back to the wing. He'll be there up against Brian To'o, which I think will be a great matchup. I think Terrell May is going to play out of his skin because he knows that Blues jumper is on the line for him. So I think he'll play great. Interestingly, they have Latu Fainu at 14 on the bench. I would have had him starting in place of Heath Mason, which it's a strange one by Benji. And then you've got Talon De Silva on the extended bench. Again, makes no sense to me. I think Talon De Silva was one of their best for many weeks while he was there.
What's the point of having Jack Bird there?
Look, Jack Bird's been good for them. I see no point. No, I think Jack Bird's been great for them. I just feel that their bench is very, very weird. Like, they don't have any out props.
Why is he on the bench?
Yeah, no, Jack Bird's fine, but Kit Lolili and Charlie Murray, I think they need like a bona fide prop there, which I find a bit weird. Having said that, I don't rate the Panthers bench that great. I think Lauren Patea is great. Eisenhuth, Summerton, Laurie. Why is Isaiah Papali'i not in the team? Or Luke Garner. I don't know what's going on there. But you know, Ivan Cleary knows what he's doing. I do think that this will be a good game. It'll be a fast game, but I think the Panthers get over the line by 10 points. I think it'll be a great game. It'll be a cracking game. I think the Tigers will show us what they're made of, but I just think that the Panthers may just have a little bit too much class. Just with Nathan Cleary sort of really kicking it up a gear, I reckon they may have too much class. But again, if the Tigers win, honestly, I will not be surprised. Honestly, I will not be surprised.
Big game. Romy up against his old mates. First time ever. I got the Panthers winning 28-14.
Yeah, I think they'll win, but it'll be a good game. It'll be a very, very good game. And as TM saying, it's a must-win by the Panthers. You know, Brian 30104 says that if the Panthers can't win this, they won't make the finals. I agree. And no, finally, they don't. You know, Tigers don't have Naden coming off the bench. I never understood that, but I still don't understand. Like their bench, just like I don't know. I just don't rate their bench at all. But then again, why is Isaiah Papali'i not being chosen in the starting team? I don't know. Maybe he's coming back from. Yeah, I think he's coming back from an injury. I think he may be coming back from an injury.
Yeah.
So we may see him move into the 17 in place of either Dane Laurie or Matt Eisenhuth. And so that's the 4 p.m. game on the Sunday, and then obviously the final game of the round is the Dogs and the Eels. We all know the Dogs are going to pump the Eels. And with that, I think we've come to the end of the podcast. We've been live now for 2 hours. We still have 46 people on the stream. And look, if you are listening to us, on Spotify, if you are watching this after the fact, thank you so much if you have gotten to this this deep. I think the rules state that you must share, you must subscribe, and you must like. If you're this far in, I think they're the rules. I don't make them up. Internet makes the rules up. I don't. So thank you so much to everybody that's still here. Doggy71, Brian 30104, Scott Wood, Ray Charch, Spirit of Hamza, Jamie Teasdale, Tiam, everyone that's still in, Norm Eater, Jamie Teasdale, Scott Wood, Mugas, everyone that's still here. Thank you so much for sticking with us. We love your support. We love your engagement and your contribution.
Jamie, champion.
We love you. Jamie has given us a $5 super chat. Good one as always, boys. Until the next one, go the Dog Zone.
Get well, Brock. Get well, son.
Dolphins. Brock, hope you get better well. Hope the Dolphins perform well for you. Hope it's a cracking match. Again, thank you everyone that's here. Thank you, Jamie, for the super chat. We look forward to seeing you guys again very soon. I do have a couple of really good videos coming out. One about the Eels rivalry and one about the whole process of Lachlan Galvin coming to the Dogs. I will try and have the Eels one out, just about the Bulldogs and Eels rivalry. I will try and have that one out by Thursday. So please, make sure you click the bell icon so you don't miss anything. Again, thank you everybody for your time. We love you guys, and we will see you in the next one. Thank you very much, and have a good evening.
Adios.
Oh, and thank you again, Dibbo. Thanks, Dib. If it's going to disrupt them, we'll find out, regardless of whether he plays New South Wales Cup this week.